A person can live well and very well, or he can live very, very badly, being on the edge of survival. Everything depends on what a person can do and what he cannot do. And in order to be able to do something, you need to learn it, and we all learn something in our lives, something that is useful to us to one degree or another. And in this article, dear readers, we will talk about how to learn business. Business, my friends, is not some kind of specialty that can be in demand or not in demand in society, well paid or poorly paid. No, in business, you depend only on yourself, and not on the needs of society and the state, in your knowledge and skills. It is profitable to do business, I tell you this honestly and openly, with all my, so to speak, broad soul. Of course, it is also hard to do business, but it is hard only for those who are not used to this type of activity. But for me, for example, working for someone else, no matter how good it is, would be an unbearable task. It is difficult to do something you have never done before, but once you get used to a new business, it will seem familiar and not at all difficult to you. In general, in order to understand that doing business is much more profitable and pleasant than working for someone else, you need to try this very business. Without comparing business with hired work, you will never really know anything about it, but if you try to live at least once on income, and not on a salary, you will feel all the thrill that business gives a person, and then you will never forget it. After these wonderful feelings of greater freedom, you will no longer be able to live peacefully. Well, whether you have already tried to do business or are just going to try to do it, you should read this article to the end. If you asked yourself the question of how to start a business and came across this article, I will tell you about it, and I will tell you in a way that no one else will tell you. First of all, let's answer a few questions that are directly related to the topic of business we are considering. By answering these questions, we, or rather you, will understand how you can learn business and, God willing, you will start doing it, and not just reading about it. These are the questions. 1. Is it possible to learn business at all? 2. Why aren't you in business yet? 3. Where and from whom can you learn business? 4. Why study business at all? In principle, I think these questions are more than enough. All other points related to our topic, from my point of view, are less significant. And these questions, they will help us understand the basis of what we call business and the laws by which it operates. Is it even possible to learn business? So, is it possible to learn business at all? Surprisingly, there are people who seriously ask themselves and others this question. They probably think that you can learn to saw, plane, create complex spacecraft and computers, but business is a completely different matter. No, seriously, what is the difference between other skills that can be learned if you study, and business? There is no difference, you can learn everything. And business, from my point of view, is not the most difficult type of activity that can be learned, so you can and should learn it, since doing business is profitable. If you learn something, then sooner or later you will learn it, and business is not an exception to this rule. You do not need to make this activity some kind of special, different from other things. But for some reason, people doubt their capabilities, maybe because they want to doubt in order to justify their laziness, and therefore they constantly ask illogical, from my point of view, questions about business. So let's answer one of these questions. Can a person, previously completely unfamiliar with business, learn this, without exaggeration, art, capable of leading him, an ordinary person, to wealth? Maybe, I say this responsibly, maybe. But there are such smart guys who claim that business cannot be learned, that it is a useless occupation, to learn it, that businessmen are not made, but, as strange as it may sound, are born. No, well, imagine, it turns out that people are born shoemakers, doctors, astronauts, and businessmen, and at the same time politicians. These are natural born, as we like to say, leaders. And some people believe in this nonsense, and some want to believe it in order to justify their own laziness with this nonsense, which is the only serious obstacle on a person's path to success. I am forced to disappoint all skeptics and lazy people, once again stating with all responsibility that business can be learned, and any person, anyone, can become a successful businessman, if only he really wants it. Lazy cows are the ones who cannot learn anything. But people, normal people, can learn everything. Even some animals can learn very complex tricks if they are properly trained. Go to the circus and watch the tricks that trained animals perform, all sorts of elephants, bears, tigers, and then think about how difficult it was for them to learn it. And how difficult is it for you to learn business? If you are not lazy, you will learn everything, remember this. Why aren't you in business yet? Now let's ask ourselves the second question, why aren't you doing business yet? What an interesting question, you must admit, and really, why the hell are you doing something that isn't as profitable as a good, juicy business, where there's a lot of money and enough power? Probably, you just weren't taught business, you were taught anything but business, not politics, not anything that can make you a rich and free person. Do you know why you weren't taught this? Because no one needs to teach you this. You are only needed as a consumable, by rich and powerful people who will exploit you. Remember. You are not the equal of those who stand above you, you are, I repeat, nothing more than a consumable, and all our education is aimed at making you a highly specialized specialist who can plug the necessary hole in the economy. Here, toil in the sweat of your brow, that's fine, we'll teach you that, son, we have enough factories, plants, mines, oil rigs, and all sorts of big companies for you. But if you don't want to study for 15 years, and then sit in an office for the rest of your days, typing for a miserable salary, surfing social networks and reading articles like this, then we can offer you another job. For example, we can send you to war or teach you to catch bandits, of which there are never fewer, no matter how hard our valiant agencies fight them. We'll find you a job, we'll keep you busy, don't worry. That's how it works with us, isn't it, or am I misunderstanding something? You turn on the TV, and there, with the help of films and special programs, they teach you to kill, rob, catch someone or run away from someone. They teach you to defend your homeland from eternal enemies. In general, both for the so-called smart, that is, for people with an education, and for the scumbags, we have enough work. As for the women, women, they also have something to do. They are taught on TV, first of all, to spread their legs, so that the gentlemen always have a large number of bedding, who are now crawling into large cities, like witches to the Sabbath, to sell their miserable bodies. After all, this is what they teach on TV today to those who do not want to study and read books, right? And business, good, real business, these are not for you, guys. And I will not even mention politics, it is becoming completely illegal here, it cannot be discussed. Imagine, you can vote, but what you vote for cannot be discussed or studied. So, that is why you are not yet engaged in business, that is why you have no idea how it is organized. Nobody needs you for shit, teach you business, work, and work as much as possible, work for the masters who don't give a damn about you. And you thought that you were born to weave bast shoes, or mine coal, or type in an office, is that your destiny? Come on, destiny, humility, a better life in the next world, all this was invented for stupid idiots. Just understand this simple thing, no one owes you anything in this life, and in our case, you need to teach yourself, because you can only be interesting to yourself, in the person of a rich and successful person. Nobody needs you in this life, to teach you skills that are beneficial and useful for you. Well, yes, there are good guys like me who are trying to explain to you what they know themselves. That is what I myself have been catching up with throughout my life, making my way through the thicket of lies to the truth that helped me improve my life, I am now just like that, for free, explaining to you. But these are just my explanations, and nothing more. I will not do anything for you. I am telling you what I consider important to tell, but you will have to move your ass to bring your thoughts, formed, thanks to my words, to life. In short, take care of yourself, do not rely on anyone in such delicate matters as business. Study materials about business, like this, and try to bring the knowledge you receive to life, through real actions. Where and from whom can you learn business? This question is probably one of the most difficult questions, because not a single educational institution and not a single person who has undertaken to teach you this business can guarantee your success in learning business. Why? Because to a large extent this success will depend on you. Now, if I tell you, go, buy nails for 100 rubles, and then sell them around the corner for 200 rubles, and many of you will not do it. But is it difficult to do such an operation? For most people it is difficult. They will immediately have thousands of idiotic questions, like, where to get nails, where to sell them, how to sell them, and so on. You see, a person who has gone through the classical education system, through standard training, is used to looking for the right answers to all questions in textbooks. He is used to following other people's orders for a grade, he is used to obeying. Most people do not understand how you can do something on your own initiative, and even correctly. This is what those who teach people business have to face. You need to change a person's brain so that he becomes a businessman, and for this, you need to create an appropriate atmosphere in which he will learn to think with his own head. There are educational institutions such as the London School of Business and Finance, Harvard Business School, Princeton University, where you can learn business. Moreover, these educational institutions will allow you to acquire the most important thing that they can give: connections. Having entered these educational institutions, if you are not a fool, you will be able to join the circle of influential and rich businessmen who in the future will be able to support you in your endeavors, as well as you them. This is the main advantage of these institutions. As for knowledge about business, you can get it anywhere, even from your neighbor, if he is engaged in business. Connections for business are certainly important, but in order to learn how to acquire them, it is not at all necessary to enter the above-mentioned educational institutions, which are overly hyped and too expensive. You can learn everything, firstly, from those who are already engaged in business, and secondly, from sources of information available to each of you, for example, from the internet. You don't need a diploma in business, you have no one to show it to, no one needs it, but you will need to learn some other skills, otherwise you won't be able to create a business. What are these skills? Here they are: ability to manage people, ability to negotiate with people, the ability to be disciplined, practical, persistent, the ability to lie beautifully, ability to lose well. Let's take a closer look at the skills that I'm drawing your attention to. Ability to manage people. When we do business, we deal with people, and we need to be able to manage people and be able to negotiate with them. Just think about the meaning of any business, because it is designed to provide us with money that can be obtained from other people. Let me repeat this again to draw your attention to this: other people pay us money. Business is a link between us and those people who will pay us money and who will work for us. This is what is important to understand. If there were no people, there would be no money in this world, it would simply not be needed. Business is not a business plan, it is not an office and stupid business cards. It is not stupid advertising and not startup capital, it is first and foremost people. If you decide to become a businessman, then you need to learn how to manage people, negotiate with people, enter into certain agreements with them, motivate them, if we are talking about your employees, and also attract the attention of your clients and partners. People who do not know how to negotiate with each other, who do not know how to fulfill their obligations to their clients, business partners, employees will not be able to do business. And even more so, those people who do not know how to manage other people, who do not know how to achieve the desired result from them, will not be able to create a truly successful business. Think about it. Do you really need to work for 10 people to get a large income? Probably, someone should work for you, if you are a businessman, at whose expense you will receive this very income. Right? Right. And people do not like to work, they only like to receive a salary, and they do not like to work and do not want to. Not all, of course, but many. That is why many people, employees, need to be properly motivated. And if you decide to become a businessman, then you need to develop leadership qualities in yourself, and about how to develop them, read either in my subsequent articles or in smart books devoted to this topic. Or, go to prestigious business schools, if you have the money to study there, and demand from the professors and business teachers there that they make you a leader, not a wadded-up theorist. Ability to negotiate with people. Well, I think everything is clear with this. If you are not a tyrant politician, and not some kind of racketeer, then you simply need to be able to negotiate with people about mutually beneficial, or beneficial only to you, cooperation. That is, you need to be able to negotiate with your business partners, with clients, with your employees, with officials, with bandits, and so on. In the life of a businessman, especially a big businessman, there are many interesting people with whom you have to have heart-to-heart talk, so your tongue should be well hung, and not sticking out in your ass. To learn this, you need to look for potential partners with whom you can agree on something important for you and in practice learn to establish the right contact with them, so to speak, find common ground. You need to learn business communication and the ability to negotiate with all people without exception. You must be able to communicate with both business and educated people, and with illiterate cattle. Money, you know, does not stink. First, of course, you can and should study the theory, and only then move on to practice. It will be easier, because without theory you can make a lot of mistakes when trying to agree on something with people, because of which your self-esteem can be lowered. We have plenty of books on negotiations and business communication, so read them and master the skills of effective communication, without which you can't do in business. If you want to get everything at once, in terms of theory, that is, the highest quality and proven information, with the help of which you can quickly agree on something with someone, make a deal, I recommend you use my information block Sales 1.0. It is everything that is necessary for both a beginner and an experienced businessman. After all, business is sales. And sales are negotiations. It is the ability to impress a person, the ability to win them over and convince them of something, so that later they can motivate them to do something. I took all this into account in my information block, Sales 1.0. You will find it in the main menu. So if you are interested in my experience of negotiating, and I have done it with so many people, then take advantage of my offer and read my subsequent articles, in which I will share with you my successes and failures in this matter. I will tell you one thing for sure, the ability to negotiate with people is not a demonstration of your egoism, expressing, supposedly, your own opinion on some issue, which you do not understand a damn thing about. In this matter, flexibility of thinking and knowledge of psychology are required, without which you will not be able to understand yourself, much less other people. And if you cannot or do not want to understand other people, and at the same time yourself, you will not be able to agree with anyone or anything. That is why fools only know how to beat each other's faces, and not negotiate with each other. Now, if conflict situations often arise in your life now, if you do not know how to negotiate with other people in a good way, if you do not like to communicate with people at all, then there is clearly something wrong with your communication skills and you should develop them. Fortunately, you do not live on a desert island and there are many people around you, including successful businessmen, on whom you can practice by conducting business negotiations with them. At first, you will not be able to correctly express your thoughts, communicating with other people, you will not be able to hear your interlocutor and understand him. It is not a big deal. Try to negotiate, despite any failures. Practice. For me, unfortunately, it is not always possible to agree with people on certain matters that I would like to conduct with them on mutually beneficial terms. It is not always possible to get from them what I need. Well, there is nothing terrible in this. People are people, they cannot always be tamed. But you have to try, you have to negotiate with people, you have to try to hear both yourself and them in these negotiations. Practice, practice, and once again practice. Without it you will not learn anything, neither the ability to negotiate with people, through fruitful negotiations, nor, as a result, conduct a successful business. So practice in this direction, make your tongue playful, let it learn to feed you. Just first study the theory, so as not to make childish mistakes when communicating with people. The ability to be disciplined, practical, persistent. The ability to be a disciplined, practical and persistent person, these are friends. The ability to be a person, not a trimmed monkey. An undisciplined person, let alone create a business, he can't even keep an eye on himself. Such a person is not much different from a monkey. He does only what he wants to do, and does not think at all about what needs to be done and how to do this or that thing correctly, in this or that situation. A disciplined person keeps his word, he is punctual, serious in his intentions, responsible, practical, you can rely on him. Do you understand what this means? You can do business with such a person and you can trust him. Well, in my life there were bad businessmen, shitty business partners who did not keep their word, who were monstrously unpunctual, sloppy, careless, loose, like the last stupid alcoholics. It was impossible to deal with such idiots, but they were nevertheless engaged in business, or rather, they were engaged in its imitation, because they were lousy businessmen. Even if a person is late for a meeting by 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, this already speaks either of his rudeness and disrespect for other people, or of his lack of discipline. You need to work very carefully with such people, because the lack of discipline is the lack of control of a person over his body, his instincts, and possibly over his brain. As for practicality, it is closely connected with discipline, because if you are a weakling, then how can you be practical? Everything will go wrong for you. Forgive me for this expression. A practical person cannot be undisciplined, because in order to do at least some serious work, you need to be a moderately collected person. Even some bandit or corrupt official who does not know how to create, but only knows how to destroy, break, harm, take away, punish, limit, even such people need discipline to achieve results from their actions. And discipline is even more necessary for business. Do you want to learn business? Develop discipline in yourself, you can't do without it. And then you will be practical, I assure you, because everything done as it should be, will definitely give some result. Even if you are not always satisfied with the results you receive, it is not scary. The main thing is that you, for your part, do everything necessary to get this result at all. In addition to discipline, in order to be practical, you need to be a calculating, economical, reliable, reasonable person. You wouldn't do something in your life just like that, for no reason at all. You wouldn't take a shovel and start digging a hole for something, would you? You would probably think first about what you need to do and why. If you need to dig a hole, then you need to think about why you need it and how best to dig it, and are there other ways to solve the problem that you set for yourself by deciding to dig a hole? In business, you can't act spontaneously. That's why people create business plans to clearly understand what exactly they will do and how best to do it. Don't do anything just like that, don't make hasty decisions, don't do the work yourself that can be entrusted to other people, for example, lawyers or accountants. In short, be practical. Well, when it comes to persistence, I immediately remember the words of the 30th President of the United States, Calvin Coolidge, who said, "Nothing can take the place of persistence." Talent is no substitute. Nothing is more common than failures with talent. Genius is no substitute. The genius who has achieved nothing is almost proverbial. Education is no substitute. The world is full of educated misfits. Only persistence and determination are omnipotent. You understand, friends, many things in this life do not work out the first time. No matter what, even with the most careful calculations, when it seems that, well, all the little things have been taken into account, everything has been foreseen, everything has been thought through, but still, something may not work out. But our good thing is that in many matters we have a fairly large limit of attempts, which we can easily use, so that, if not from the first, and not from the 10th, then at least from the 101st try to achieve the result we need in this or that matter. Well, life is arranged that way, what can you do? And smart men and smart women know about it, understand it, that is why they never give up. Go to the end in your endeavors, do not be a wimp, sour at the first failures. Failures are cool, mistakes are a thrill, make mistakes and fail as often as possible, and then your victory will be great. Keep in mind that a person goes to real victories through defeats. If you have never had defeats in your life, then you have never won. A businessman is a fighter, a person who challenges an aggressive external environment, and does not bend under it, like a gray mass. A businessman is forced to confront corrupt officials, law enforcement agencies, tax officials, all these inspection agencies with their parasites, and of course bandits, who in our time can have quite a legal status. It is clear that in such a battle for your interests, you will not always win, because the forces are unequal, but you cannot give up, otherwise, you will live in poverty, you will be forced to endure humiliation, insults. Otherwise, friends, you will simply be destroyed as a person. You see for yourself how we treat honest workers like cattle. They are bullied, humiliated in every possible way, trampled into the dirt and used for various purposes, as expendable material. Seeing this, understanding this, feeling this, experiencing and living it, you cannot help but feel inner anger, which prompts you to fight to the last, to fight for the right to be an individual, for the right to live a life worthy of a person. So be persistent and you will succeed. There is nothing complicated in business. You need to find what to sell, then think about where, to whom and how to sell and start the process. The ability to lie beautifully. So, what do you think, dear readers? Are businessmen honest and decent people, thinking only about their clients and their employees? And politicians, what about them? Do they think about their people, about their well-being, and about their freedoms? I hope that you are adequate people, with your brains not washed, and therefore understand that no one thinks about you, neither businessmen, nor politicians, because they don't give a damn about you. Businessmen are interested, first of all, in profit, that is, money, therefore they will deceive everyone they need to deceive, for the sake of money. And there is nothing to say about politicians at all, because a politician and a liar are synonyms. And do you see how these not always and not entirely honest people live? Do you see that they live well? A businessman, like a politician, is forced to lie, because his task is to get the maximum for himself and leave the minimum for others. Therefore, if you want to do business, you need to be able to lie. But, pay attention, unlike most ordinary people, who are also not distinguished by crystal honesty, a businessman, like a politician, must lie beautifully. A businessman needs to create the illusion of caring about his employees, the illusion of caring about his clients, which, by the way, may not be so far from reality, but still it will be only an illusion of good intentions. After all, his main task, a businessman, is to get the maximum profit. I repeat this to you once again. And everyone knows very well, all businessmen, I mean, that selling air, selling illusions, selling garbage, not to mention empty promises, this is the most profitable type of business. Therefore, a businessman must be able to lie beautifully, you understand, he must. He has to deceive his employees, promising them mountains of gold. He has to deceive his clients, foisting all sorts of nonsense on them. He has to cheat with various government agencies that are ready to destroy his business for their own benefit. You see, a person has to lie, otherwise he will not survive. Is it possible to run an honest business? Of course it is possible. In general, it is possible to live an honest life and not end up without pants. But not in this world and not with these people. After all, the system in which you and I live today is built on lies. Being honest is futile, not because it is somehow stupid, but because the world perceives honesty as a manifestation of weakness. And weakness is punishable in our country. At the same time, strange as it may seem, some people are ready to fight and die for the truth, for justice. But we have built the world on lies, and therefore people themselves want to be deceived, because they are so weak that they fear the truth like fire, and some, especially impudent human beings, simply do not deserve the truth. So learn to lie beautifully. Fortunately, you can practice this constantly and everywhere. Without beautiful lies, you will not be able to create a good business. People will not forgive you for your honesty, because they see weakness in it. The ability to lose. As for the ability to lose, which is necessary in order to turn defeat into victory, then this, my friends, is the highest level of skill in the life of a reasonable person. In business, as I wrote above, you will have to lose. There is no other way, because in this business, you will not be able to win all the time, because you are not the only smart one who knows everything and can do everything. But defeat hardens the character, it makes you more resistant to the blows of fate, it teaches you to take blows. And there are many of these blows in this life, so you must be prepared for them. How to learn to lose? Well, a loss is a loss. If someone has beaten you or, if you like, had you, then you have no choice but to accept defeat, because you understand, after a fight, do not wave your fists, it is stupid. The point here is not in defeat as such, the point is something else, in the desire to continue the game after defeat, when you need to lick your wounds, recover, analyze what happened in order to understand the reason for the defeat, and then, taking into account all your mistakes, start a new game. That is, you need to have balls in your pants to want to get up after a fall. To do this, always remember your pride, your greatness, yourself, freedom and the right to a decent life. And fight for it. And I'll tell you this, after a loss, it's much more interesting to play, because in such a case a person has a burning desire to win back, or if you like, to take revenge. It's not for nothing that they say that a wounded animal is always more dangerous, especially such an animal as a person. If life didn't kill you, then what? That's right, it made you stronger. So, in order not to lose heart after a defeat, just prepare for it in advance. As the samurai code says, every samurai must remember death and do everything as if it were the last time. If a samurai remembers death, it means he is ready to meet the enemy. If a samurai is ready to meet the enemy, he is invincible. Imagine a reality in which you have already lost, turn on your imagination and live through the bitterness of defeat, suffer through all your state after this defeat, feel the pain and despair that come to us at the moment when we lose. Feel the anger that comes to us later, after we realize that we have lost, and which forces us to take revenge. In general, psychological readiness for loss, with the expectation, of course, of winning in the future, will make your psyche more tempered, and this tempering will help you survive any defeat, even the most cruel and humiliating. The ability to lose is what distinguishes a strong person from a weak one, a successful person from a loser, men from boys. Learn to lose, this skill will be useful to you in business. Why study business at all? Of course, I have not told you everything about business training, because you understand that one article, no matter how long it is, in theory, cannot immediately convey all the points that a budding businessman should pay attention to and that he needs to study. Therefore, I strongly recommend that you read my subsequent articles, in which I will convey to you many more useful things that I myself have learned over the years of hard work, intensive self-study, and also by making a large number of mistakes. In the meantime, let me draw your attention to the need to study business, which I would like you to understand. You see, friends, the life that you and I live did not just come out of nowhere. It was formed due to many different events that occurred throughout the history of mankind, throughout the world and in each individual country. The insignificant freedoms that we have today are not the result of humanity realizing the need for a freer and more democratic society. It is a forced need for the minority to make concessions to the majority. You and I deserve better living conditions, deserve our rights, deserve the opportunity to do business, and have access to almost any information. And you and I must value, love and protect these achievements of ours, for which our ancestors shed their blood in the class struggle.